Hey, good morning, everyone. I hope you're having a fantastic Wednesday, and welcome to the Telling It Like It Is live Facebook discussion. My name is Jade Alberts, and we are live from Calgary, Alberta. I'm a workplace strategist focusing on business and brand development, but my true passion is helping small businesses grow, succeed, and hopefully enjoy a very nice work-life balance. The Telling It Like It Is topic today is collaboration, and Tom Morin is my guest from Work Innovation Partners. Tom, thank you for joining me. And how are you today?
Oh, just doing great. Thank you so much, Jay. This is a pleasure.
Oh no, it's an honor to have you. And as much as I like to stress and getting out there and networking, I mean, you and I kind of just met on a whim, had a cup of coffee here in Calgary at a Starbucks, and before you know it, we've started a very good business relationship.
That's been great. Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, do you do a lot of the little, meeting guys for coffee?
Actually, absolutely. So after working in organizations for so many years, that networking muscle really wasn't there, but it doesn't take long to realize the value of connecting with people and just the value of saying yes when somebody gives you a call, say, you want to meet for coffee? I always tell people, meet with people, gather that information, and then, you can decide what you want to do with it. But just to say no, you're just limiting your possibilities.
Oh, there's no doubt there. No doubt. 100% agree with you. I'll do a little introduction here for Tom. Tom is a thought leader and consultant in areas of leadership development, organizational development, career management, and organizational change. Tom is also a part-time instructor in organizational change management at Mount Royal University. Before founding Work Innovation Partners and Tom Morin Consulting, he spent over 3 decades working in organizations in a variety of roles, from technical specialist to people leader. You can read his blog and an extended biography at workfeelsgood.com and follow him on LinkedIn and Twitter. So that's a very good lead into the first question, and all the work that you have done, Tom. I mean, many small businesses and startups fail. How can you set up an organization to avoid that?
Well, I'm sure if we have, 10 people who think about this in a room, we'll come up with 10 good reasons why businesses fail. And I'm sure they'll be valid. But my own observation and my own experience tells me that one of the main reasons, I believe, an important reason that businesses fail, and it's going to sound simple at first, is it's the people thing. When we try to do something, and I tried to think of a business that doesn't need to get things done through people, and I thought of maybe an individual writing a book or something like that. But even then, you need a relationship with a publisher or a relationship with your public, with your readers. Getting things done through people, whether it's with a business partner or as a leader, inspiring other people to do things or motivating people to do things, I really think that one of the primary reasons businesses fail is they fail to focus on the relationships between people, between themselves and other people, and perhaps even between the individual and the work that person does. So I think it's all about people and relationships. I'm sure there's many other things, but I think that's one of the primary reasons that businesses do fail.
No, I couldn't agree with you more. I mean, I am such a proponent of the employees and the way they have to get along in the company and with each other. I mean, the employees are a heartbeat of a company, so that goes such a long way. I guess, speaking of employees, how should a company set their goals? And should they share it with their employees? Should they get feedback from their employees? What do you think, Tom?
Well, that's a really important one. And the one thing I talk to about my clients is nearly everything we communicate in an organization, we're attempting to engage, or, there's various reasons why we communicate, whether it's to inform, persuade, a bunch of other good reasons. But we run the risk, there's always consequences. So we're going to engage some people and potentially disengage others. So I ask them to back up, and I always say that all behavior meets a need. So when somebody starts an organization, creates a company, they're doing it out of a need for themselves. They have goals. But as that company, grows or progresses, goals become quite individualized. So the one thing I ask people to do is understand, as we always in Work Innovation Partners, it's kind of this is probably not a popular thing to talk about these days, but we take a very top-down approach. And we don't think that's a bad thing. We start at the highest levels in the organization, normally at the board level, and we say, why does this business exist? What are your goals? And then as we move down through that organization, we ask people to talk about goals that are relevant to the level that they're communicating to. And so when companies set goals, I think that we should set goals to make sure that the reason we're here it's meeting our needs. But when we communicate our goals, we always have to put a little filter on there and say, am I just trying to, communicate something that's really only relevant to me, or am I actually communicating goals that are relevant to the people that I need to get things done through? Because we're all, like I said, it's all about the people. It's all about getting things done through people. So the last thing I ask people to do, and it's really the beginning of our process, is get to know your people, find out what's important to them, and seek alignment. So your goal, my goal for the organization may be, for my own company, it's, contributing to workplace well-being through successful organizations and creating an income for myself. But I've got to make sure that when I'm working with people who do my marketing, for example, that the goal that I'm setting for them is relevant to them and meaningful to them, and that'll inspire them to do good work. So it's all about understanding the people you're working with and the people that are working for you, and understanding what goals are relevant to them, and can we meet somewhere on this?
Well, that's a great answer. And I mean, obviously you stress the fact that employees need to give some feedback and input, because I mean, they are at the front lines. They know what people want. They talk to their customers. They are there. They know they are, again, the heartbeat of a company. So I guess if a company, has to, if things aren't going the way they would like it to, their business plan isn't the way it's, should be going, they have to pivot. What are the correct steps to pivot away from a business plan?
Well, the first thing that I ask people to keep in mind is that people react to change. It sounds simple again, but it's almost the physics of an organization. And when things change, people will either react quite positively or potentially quite negatively. And we often think that when people react negatively, that it's some sort of brokenness in the person. And I always try to remind my clients that if we look at it as a brokenness in the person, we're really not looking at managing that change, that pivot, whatever we're doing. And I always say that behavior around change is initiated by the thing that's changing. And in change management, we call that the content of the change. So if we remember that people's reaction to change in an organization is caused by the thing we're changing, then we can actually start addressing things that we can really do something about. And what I always remind people of is that one theory of change is that people's reaction is because they're losing something. So if I'm pivoting my business plan, if I'm changing something, I've got to understand, what is this change taking away from somebody potentially? And once I understand that, then I can address that thing that's being taken away with that person. So for example, often if people have to pivot a business plan or change what they're doing, people that were really successful at doing things a certain way, all of a sudden they're feeling a lot of anxiety because they're saying, you know what, I used to be really good at my job. I used to be good at this software, good with these clients, good at performing this business process. And now they're saying, I may not be competent anymore. Maybe I'm going to be seen as not as smart as I used to be. Well, they're losing that. They're losing that. There's a loss of competency. So let's get in there. Let's talk about it. How can we help you, become more competent with this software, with this business process? How can we foster those relationships with those clients? Because that's what's happening. The person's not broken. They're just losing something. So let's understand that. Let's work with them.
No, very, very good answer. That, again, I mean, how many times all three answers we've had so far, it's all about communication, and that is so, so big. And as you said, from the top down, it's most important that the top is able to communicate. I'm a big fan of celebrating successes and obviously discussing failures. And, how do you set this up in an organization?
Mm-hmm. So again, and I'm sorry if I'm going to sound like a broken record, but like I say, everything we do, we have to remember that our behavior meets a need. So I'm doing something because it's filling a need in me. If I want to celebrate a success, if I think it's important, or I want to address failures, it must be something that's important to me. No problem. But we have to remember that everything we do has the potential to engage many other people, but disengage others. So we absolutely know that managing performance is an important thing. And it's a terrible term, performance management, but celebrating successes, discussing failures, however we want to talk about it, let's label it as performance management. We don't have to. But I think what's important there is when we celebrate successes, one thing that we want to do in an organization is acknowledge contribution to success and not specifically acknowledge personal traits in an individual. So the reason I ask people to avoid, I'd like to thank, comments like, I'd like to thank Jade today because his hard work and his ability to make decisive, to act decisively really makes a difference in our company. Yes, Jade, if Jade believes that about himself, I'll have legitimacy. But you may not think that about yourself. And somebody standing right beside you will say, well, I work hard, I'm decisive. So I think what I ask people to do is acknowledge the actual contribution and impacts. So when we're celebrating successes on an individual level, like Jade, I'd like to acknowledge the impact of what you did on our business. It kind of sets, it's more concrete, and it's something that other people can relate to in an organization. And it starts people thinking, well, if Jade did that, I could do that too. So whenever we're celebrating, remember, it's not about the person or a personal trait. It's all about impacts and acknowledging impacts. Now, when we're discussing failures, and we should, because we absolutely have to create that environment where we can say, hey, this didn't go well. Here's what we need to do. Again, if we make it about the person, it's more difficult. And we've all heard that. It's not about the person, it's about the issue. But we really have to make that concrete. And there's a whole bunch of great tools out there, and I'd like to recommend to your listeners, and I recommend to my clients almost every week. There's a great book out there called Crucial Conversations, and there's some training available on it. And it's all about addressing these types of, high stakes conversations. So I've talked on a very individual level again, and I think that's important because even if we want to celebrate company-wide success through some sort of meeting or event, we always have to remember that do I know my people enough, or do my leaders know their people enough to make sure that that celebration will be inclusive and we'll understand what those potential consequences could be. Again, concrete.
Oh, there's just no better way to put it. I mean, how to celebrate and how to talk about failures is just priceless. I'm a big fan of continued learning, and obviously with your work in being a part-time instructor at MRU, I know recently I've introduced you to a gentleman out of London, England named Chris Hood through Workplace Evolutionaries. And I know you guys are going to do some work, with schools and getting some education programs set up with FM. Can you briefly, describe that? I would love to just touch on that.
Mm-hmm. Well, again, and I'd like to thank you again for your primary topic of our talk today, which is collaboration. And you can't collaborate unless you connect with people. And the only way you're going to connect with people is if you're somehow open to these opportunities. So connecting with you, saying yes to meeting for a coffee, connected me with a great person, Chris Hood, and a couple other people in the United States. Chris is in the UK. And through that connection, me and you today collaborating, and Chris and I collaborating, the next thing we're doing is we're contributing. So our video today, the work I'm doing with Chris Hood, connect, collaborate, contribute. I think that's just a model that if we can all, I know you've seen that tagline probably on my website, but I think it's nice to just, pause on that and say that until we're able to say yes to this opportunity, we don't have to act. Not every connection will work out the way we want it, but we're never going to know unless we do, step out of our comfort zone potentially and connect with people. So back to the more concrete things again. What am I doing with Chris? Chris is very interested in rethinking the world of work and the future of work and this social construct, let's call it, called the workplace. So what is the workplace? We used to talk about it as a physical space, as a facility, and architects get involved and organizational behaviorists to figure out which is the best way to structure it. Workplaces are changing. I range about my house during the day, most days now. And workplace has a huge psychosocial element to it. When people work virtually, how do they communicate? Eye contact, all that kind of stuff. So we're trying to reimagine the world of work. And I think one of the primary things that's coming out of our discussion, and this is, I'll mention again, this is at a somewhat academic level now. And what I mean by academic is we're working with people at universities, myself through my doctoral work, Chris through his collaboration with Reading University, George Mason University, United States. We're trying to understand the limits of the disciplines that have been brought together in the past to address the world of work. We're trying to make a bigger tent. And we think that the future of work will be so the problems that the world of work poses now are advancing this thing called the workplace really needs what we call an interdisciplinary approach, which is multiple disciplines. And we really think the answer in the future will be one of transdisciplinarity. And what that means is that we're going to have this new discipline created called, who knows, workplaceology, something. I know it sounds funny, but it's probably not going to be that. But it's going to be some future that really is its own discipline. And it's going to transcend existing things like industrial organizational behavior, or pardon me, industrial organizational psychology, human resource practice. Those are disciplines now and practices now, but we really think the future is unknown, and it's going to be something that that really will be the product of hopefully the work that we're doing and many others. There's so many others in this space.
Oh, I think it was after we had our coffee there. I just thought it was just a perfect. You guys would just collaborate perfectly. And I mean, obviously, having today's discussion, I wanted to thank you for coming on, because communication and collaboration, is, the key to any organization, big, small, medium, even personal relationships for that matter. You have to be able to communicate to make things work. So again, Tom, thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule to chat with us today.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you.
All right. Well, I'd like to thank everybody for tuning in. My name is Jade Alberts. I focus on business and brand development, and my passion is helping small businesses succeed and enjoy a healthy work-life balance. Until next week, have a great day, and we'll talk soon. Bye-bye.